5-minute penalty to Chicago, a game misconduct, and then Manson having words with Steven. And now Butcher gets into it. We're going to have a brawl, folks. Stand by.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Tyler Cash here. This is the Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast coming to you pre-recorded from Las Vegas, Nevada with my boy Tommy. How you doing, bud?
Good. Pre-recorded for everyone else, not for us.
Yeah, well, it's not live. So if you're listening to this, it's not live, contrary to popular belief or technology might tell you. Yeah, man. Really feeling good after game 3 with our Bolts in 6 prediction. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it looked a hell of a lot better. And I mean, I think was the interesting thing too, is where Nick Paul got banged up. Kucherov is the question mark, I think, after the whole cross check from Tays there towards the end of the game.
So Coach Cooper confirmed that both Paul and Kucherov will be in game 4.
Oh, I'm sure they will be. You're not
okay.
Yeah,
the question mark is whether they're healthy enough to actually be there, I guess is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, 100%. So, Avalanche ran up the score 7-0 in game 2. I'm sure that pissed off John Cooper. I'm sure that pissed off a lot of the other Tampa Bay Lightning team members, and so they showed, hey, we can score too. So
most notably Vasilevsky, and there was a reason why they kept him in net. They're not going to put Brian Elliott in. They can't put the fate of the
Blues legend Brian Elliott.
Yeah, they can't put the fate of the series and the Stanley Cup and the three-peat in the hands of Brian Elliott. I think it was one of those scenarios where Vasilevsky said, "I don't care. Keep me in. I don't care if it's 9-0. Like, I'm going to finish out this game. This is my net." And, respectfully and rightfully so. And he bounced back amazing, dude. He had an amazing first period there, game 3. I mean, all the way through in reality. For a second there, it was looking like the Avs might have had their foot on the gas real hard, right? Because they scored the first goal, but it was taken away to an obvious offsides.
A little controversial. They gave Cooper all the time in the world to make a decision, which I think every single sport that has a review process pretty much has that. I think the only exception is like football, where a team will like sprint up to the line to like spike the ball or get off like a quick play to avoid a challenge, and they like blatantly know it's not. But I feel like in those instances you already know. But yeah,
I remember you're right. The announcer said he's not going to challenge, and I was like, "What the fuck? Are you kidding me?" And then they were like, "Are you sure?" Yeah. I think you want to challenge.
It's like a weird dynamic. Yeah.
And then they show the war room, from behind the head where they're reviewing it. It's like very obviously off, right? Like
100%.
But it was like I guess the league can't just be like, "Hey, we're challenging this." They need the coach to pull the trigger. So Thankfully he did. Otherwise we might be having much different conversation today, right?
Facts.
So, But yeah, big game, big win. And here's what I said from the very beginning. If there's any team that can bounce back from even a 3-0 deficit, it would be the Tampa Bay Lightning, your reigning Stanley Cup champs. Like they've been there before. They just did it last series against the Rangers. They were down 2-0 in that series, and they hammered off and won 4 in a row. And here's my argument. I think there's a lot to be said about not having home ice advantage, right? Because you got the nerves, the shock value for game 1, right? Anybody can take that game, and throw that out. Throw the first 2 games out for all I care, because from there on, you wake up and you have that realization that, wow, we're really contending here, because it's the Lightning. They don't have as much to lose as the Avs, right? They don't have as much to prove, I guess, if you will. And I think it's dangerous, especially if they win game 4 tonight, man. Like, I could see them just doing exactly what they did in New York, win 4 in a row and take this in 6.
Yeah, I mean, we still gotta see how tonight goes, but I agree. That's cliche from last series, but it's like I said, it's not a turning point in a series till a home team loses a game. So
yeah, you have that.
Exactly what we saw with the Rangers.
I hear your voice in the back of my head always saying that it's not over until you lose at home. And I've never really put it that way. I've never thought of it that way, but it makes a lot of fucking sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, in all honesty, I think game 4 is going to be interesting. There's also possibility that Kadri's back for Game 4, so that's an interesting dynamic too.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk. I've seen the videos of Kadri practicing, and he looks insane. It's just crazy how much of a difference the NHL is when you're actually playing the game as opposed to practicing. Because like he's stopping on a dime. He's using his hands. He's weaving in and out. It doesn't look like he's missed a step, right? And this guy just had surgery on his thumb. So you would think he would be in, but I mean, I guess they don't want him in and then be taken immediately out. I guess that makes sense, especially while you're up in the series.
Yeah, his hand gets hit a certain way or whatever. I think the other dynamic of it too is it's been what, maybe 2 weeks since that's happened, maybe less than 2 weeks since he's had surgery and he's fine. So how much was the narrative pushed here? That, oh, this is a debilitating injury for Nazem Kadri. Oh, I'm good. It's 2 weeks. Granted, I'm sure he's going to have pain tolerance to some degree. But, yeah, you're going to play the narrative, oh, that was dirty. I feel so bad for Nazem Kadri. It was a gruesome
Who hurt him
injury.
Again? What was it?
Kane. It was a cross check.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and into the boards.
It was a bad play, yeah. But, I'm sick and tired of, coaches jobbing for calls, to the media. I'm sick and tired of, let's play up an injury. Again, he had surgery. I'm not saying it wasn't minor by any means, but let's play this up in the media so we can get the desired outcome of, getting this guy out for longer or
Plus,
whatever the case may be.
Had that series gone longer and they would have less time, there's no way in hell he's getting that surgery, bro. Like, it's just not happening. There's a huge gap with the games, with the series.
Well, I mean,
it's weird.
That. I mean,
you're not going to get it in the middle of the playoffs. How many times do you hear about guys that fight through these minor to mid-level injuries, and then at the end they're like, "Oh shit, my entire hip was dislocated, or I had a broken thumb."
If you're having an injury that requires surgery, that needs surgery, especially in this case with a hand that controls how you shoot and pass and everything, stick handle, you're not playing. You didn't play Game 4. You're up 3-0. I get your point, but I think it's more so the fact that, obviously them sweeping the Oilers allows, okay, here's basically an extra week of added time that we can tat on, and maybe he's ready for the Cup final. Who knows? But
are we going to see him? Are we going to see him and Braden Point in the series? That's the real question.
I think Kadri's back Game 5. That's what my gut tells me. I think Braden Point comes back in an elimination game. That's what my gut tells me also.
Yeah, I saw Cooper said highly unlikely, use those words, and he seems like he's a pretty honest, straightforward coach with what's going on. So I would if I were a betting man, I would say Kadri comes back first. I'm with you on that. If they win tonight, the Bolts, that is, then that's going to push back whether or not Braden Point comes back at all, because if they can just continue trailing through and rolling these goals like they have, man, 6-2, if they can do that without their leading goal scorer, that says a lot. Here's my question though, right? I think we talked about it last episode. MVP. To me, it's clearly obvious that it's Makar for the Avs if they win. But isn't there a scenario when the MVP can be from the losing team? Like we've seen that, right? So
it's happened.
One could argue that Cale Makar has been just the most insane player this series so far.
Yeah, but the thing you have to consider is you're not just counting for the Cup final for the Conn Smythe. It's the whole whole thing. I think the most recent one was it Jaguar? I want to say, back with the Ducks when they lost in 7 in 2003. So he's done it. It's happened to Glenn Hall. It's happened to Ron Hextall. I think the only non-goalie was the Flyers way back in the day. But it's I think that was the only situation there. But ultimately said, it's hard. I think it's very well defined that if the Avs win, it's Makar. If the Lightning win, it's TBD, in my opinion.
I wouldn't be surprised, though. 7 goals, 19 assists for 26 points in 17 games. And that's including 2. That's including 2 last game. I'd be very surprised because there's not necessarily a player that is standing out to me on Tampa, right? I know you mentioned Kucherov a little last time, but I would argue Stamkos is kind of having more of a standout playoffs so far.
Looking from a true production standpoint, Kucherov's up there. He's done really jack these 3 games, I believe. I don't think he did a whole lot in game 3 either. But yeah, I mean, we're still at least 2 games out from that. I mean, if we're 2 games out from that, we know it's going to be Makar. I'll put it that way. If we're getting to game 6 and 7, maybe that narrative changes a little bit one way or another. Yeah, he has 3 points in this game, in this series, all assists. I mean, he's still a point per game player in the Cup final. But for Kucherov,
we're talking Kucherov. Yeah, Stamkos is at 10 goals, 7 assists for 17 points in 20 games. So he's almost a point.
He's got 10 points more than Stamkos does in the same amount of time. So
fair.
We'll see.
When it comes to big time goals, though, Stamkos still.
Yeah,
even at 32, he's delivering, which is wild to see.
Agreed. And I think the point is, Vasilevsky's out of the question. I don't know how you give Conn Smythe to a guy. Granted, he said, keep me in, let up 7 goals in the game. I don't see how you go that route at this point. Like I said, unless he were to pitch 2 shutouts here at some point, I don't think that happens.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I want to highlight before we move maybe to awards and stuff and some other coaching moves is really refreshing to actually see a good scrap in that game.
Oh yeah, we
Ross
didn't talk
Colton,
about that at all.
Logan O'Connor.
They lost buckets, right?
Buckets came off. There were a couple solid connects to the head. It was a good fight. O'Connor won it for the Avs, but it was a solid fight. It was nice to actually be okay, there's some passion still left in this game. Not, Pat Maroon bumping into you and laughing at you in the scrum, and then you guys pull on each other's jerseys. It's funny to see. Also funny situation. It was that hit on Corey Perry that knocked him down. It was Corey Perry cross-checked tripped by Josh Manson, who then tried to finish a cross-check, and then Pat Maroon comes up to Josh Manson and is like, "The fuck you doing?" It's like all this duck on duck crime.
I forgot Pat Maroon was a duck. What the fuck?
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
I thought
was that the play when Corey Perry kneeled on the guy's leg as he got up on purpose?
No, it's completely separate.
Fucking dirt ball.
That's
the shit icing on this whole scenario. You and I both want Tampa to win, 3-peat. Pat Maroon, 4-time Stanley Cup champ. You know what? I want to see Pat Maroon win 20 Stanley Cups. I don't care if it ever stops, if he hops from team to team and wins.
Sure.
The problem with that is Corey Perry will have won. Finally, after
he's already won. He's already won.
I know again, but because he's jumped from team to team, right? Dallas, Montreal,
3 Cup final appearances in a row.
Yeah, and he's the only person to score a game-winning goal?
It was a Cup final goal for 4 different teams.
Yeah. Which commend him on that. But Jesus Christ, he's a dirty old man. How he still plays.
I view him as a more skilled, less scrappy, Steve Ott at this point in his career. That's kind of how I see him. I mean, Blues fans will appreciate that, I feel like.
Bolts in 6. Realistically it's gonna go 7 probably. I can see that these are 2 great teams, and if you were gonna write off the reigning Stanley Cup champs after those 2 games, you're just sadly mistaken.
Even if their opponents were the Habs and the Stars.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, it's plus 440 was the odds, I think, before game 3, something like that. So if you were lucky enough to pounce on that and they wind up winning, kudos to you, because that's some crazy odds right there. Know what? Hold on. Before we move on, though, you said even if it was the Habs and the Stars, I did see someone post that question online. They said, if the Avs just completely smoke Tampa, does that make you think differently about their last 2 Stanley Cup wins?
I mean, I already think differently about it personally. I mean,
really,
you have shorter seasons. You have these weird breaks. You have no fans for the majority of it, or limited fans. It's not the same. So that's how I felt about it from the get-go. I mean, I'm not one to go and say oh, this is an asterisk. These are the last 2 asterisk Stanley Cups, but it's a different environment. And
there's kind of with you.
There's some people want to argue that fans really don't make a difference. Players get used to it, or they drown it out, or whatever. But it definitely makes an impact one way or another. And traditionally speaking, if those teams I've gone back and looked at it in the last year, those teams mapped out in their normal division, based on the points that they got. Obviously, it'd be way different because they're not just playing like in their division or playing a shortened season and a play-in round robin crap. Much different bracket, much different matchups. I don't think they get past the second round, in my personal opinion.
Well, I mean, it's hard to argue that considering the last time that they were in a regular Stanley Cup playoff matchup, they got spanked by Columbus, which was the last team to destroy them. Yeah, I'm with you on that. It makes a lot of sense, 100%. And I think the Avs are kind of feeding off of this whole fan thing too. They got the Blink-182 sing along. Like those games look like they've been loud and intense. And they've been playing great. They've been playing great at home. They've also been playing great on the road. But to that same argument, we could also say they have not been tested because they've had it pretty fucking easy so far. So that goes to say that's why people always argue that we should go back to the 1 through 8 seeding and have these true matchups. Because it's crazy to think that round 1 was the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, to me, that felt like that was a Stanley Cup final, even down to Game 7. And that seems like it was fucking forever ago now, Like, we're so deep into playoffs, seems like it was, a year ago.
I agree. Yeah, I completely agree.
Kind of removes the hype for me. I don't have a dog in the fight, but like, because it was so intense in the beginning and then it died off slowly each round, now I don't care as much, and that bums me out. But yeah, either way, I think we're on to some more exciting hockey. This is the quote unquote matchup that every hockey fan wanted, skill against skill.
Hey now, what's up, goons? Tyler Cash here, and it's time to pause the podcast and chat a bit about our amazing sponsors over at Schlafly Brewing Company. Hockey and beer. Does it get any better? I don't think so. Schlafly has been brewing up some of the best beer I've ever had for many years, and it's officially that time of year for their famous Raspberry Hefeweizen. It's one of my personal favorites. Their Raspberry Hefeweizen distinguishes itself among others in that it's a true fruit beer. None of this fruit-flavored crap. It uses real raspberry in the brewing process. Once the fruit sugar ferments out, the aroma and flavor stay in, making this a delightful drinkable beer that's not too sweet or tart. It's refreshing and balanced with a natural hazy pink coloring. Because it's low in alcohol, it brings out a smooth dose of weediness, and it's perfect for summer. It's perfect for any time. Download the Schlafly app or visit schlafly.com to locate and devour yours today. That's SCHLAFLY.com. Schlafly Beer. Drink Mo Beer. This podcast is brought to you by 1 in a Million Handyman Services Incorporated. 1 in a Million is a family-run local company that's been serving the Las Vegas, Nevada area for over 15 years. They are licensed and insured throughout Clark County and travel as far as Boulder City, Henderson, Las Vegas, and North Las Vegas. 1 in a Million specializes in smaller home repairs, but also tackles commercial repairs. They've worked around the Strip, residential homes, commercial buildings, you name it, 1 in a Million has made their mark. With a 4.5-star Yelp review and countless of happy customers throughout the 15 years, you can guarantee you'll be happy with their services. All previous customers can refer an unlimited amount of friends and family for a $25 referral credit, which would come off of any future projects and or repairs if they decide to use 1 in a Million. This offer also extends to the Fourth Line Goon listeners. Mention this podcast and you will receive a $25 referral credit that will come off of the total cost of your repairs. 1 in a Million is open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and you can find them on the web at juaninamill.com. That's JUANINAMILL.com, or you can also find them at juan.inamill on Instagram. 1 in a Million Handyman Services won't let you down. Check them out.
But yeah, let's talk about these awards. Obviously, they handed out the awards. Where at? They did it.
So now they changed it to where one of the teams in the cup final is the host city for the awards. I don't think there's a criteria for if the home team with who has home ice or not, but
I get it, but it's kind of lame. I mean, especially because I live here.
Yeah. We both know why it's lame.
And it would be amazing to visit Vegas, and that's actually like how Tommy and I met, which we've brought up a few times over the years of doing this podcast. We met as seat fillers.
It's been like 5 years since then. Yeah.
Yep. 5 years. 5 years ago, almost to the day, we were sitting 7 rows back from the front of the awards. Why do I keep saying rewards? What the fuck is wrong with me?
You tell me.
It's water. I swear to God, it's not vodka. It's water. Yeah, I miss it. And I think that this is like, it's slowly being less, which that was a big problem of what we were saying. They're like kind of undermining it. I saw World Hockey Report tweeted, they said, is anyone even actually watching this? Because I forgot it was even happening.
I agree. It was poorly marketed.
And Keenan Thompson, again, is he just going to be the host? Is that just his job now? Like,
I guess so.
I mean, I did appreciate his little roast there at the end. He said it's nice to see the Toronto Maple Leafs winning something in June when Austin Matthews won his award, not reward.
Awards.
Yeah, multiple. Awards. So I'll have you go through it. Who won everything?
So looking at everything, so Matthews won the Hart. Won the Ted Lindsay Award. Those are the big two.
You won the worst hairline in the NHL.
Shesterkin won Vezina and then announced that he's having a baby, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I think the Moritz Seider, defenseman for the Red Wings, ended up winning Rookie of the Year, which I fully expected.
Called that.
It's fully expected.
Yeah, that's what
over Zegras. You look at statistics and they're similar, but you literally have a 21-year-old guy just completely manhandling people on the ice. Like as a defenseman, that's mind-boggling. But I think those are like the big five, really. And then, or I guess the one we didn't talk about, Norris, Cale Makar won. Roman Josie got robbed, completely robbed. Is Cale? So to preface that, the award is best defenseman, right? Cale Makar is better offensively to a degree. In my opinion, the stats don't show it this year, but will be. He's 23. The guy is 32 in Yossi. Cale Makar is much more gifted offensively than Roman Josi is. Roman Josi outscored him the regular season, significantly, almost at 100 points as a defenseman. They do not make the playoffs without Roman Josi. If Cale Makar is not on the Avalanche probably still easily win this division. That's what's frustrating to me is you consider best defenseman, and like I feel like that's where the conversation gets skewed, where it's like, oh, the conversation's best defenseman, not most valuable player. You know, if it was an MVP award, I think Roman Josi were to get more votes than Cale Makar if it came down to both of them, because he is probably the sole reason why they made it to the playoffs, even though they got swept in 4 games. But that being said, like, yeah, Roman Josi had a career year, put up absolutely nuts numbers on a team that had no business being in the playoffs, while Makar, excelled exceptionally on a team that was expected to run away with the West. And that's what happened. So that's what's frustrated me. I know it was kind of like razor thin margins, but I also wonder, that's a weird dynamic too, is like Cale Makar had to go up there and like accept this award, and then now he has to go out and play a game. Like, oh, I'm the best defenseman in the NHL. Look at me. Like, curious if that's going to affect him at all. I doubt it, but
might affect him negatively, even, honestly. Like, you feel like you had a sense of you've already won kind of thing. I know he had that post-game interview where she was like, are you going to celebrate a little bit? And he went, no. And then stormed off. So he does have a little bit of fight.
He even said, like, yeah, I'm really honored to be considered for this award, but like, I got to turn the page till tomorrow. Like, I can't. That's all I can really say. So
I think it should have went to Yossi personally as well, but they kind of went with the hype. The GMs were like, okay, Cale Makar, best defenseman since Paul Coffey kind of vibe, and they really let the hype get to their heads, which is why I thought Trevor Zegras was going to win, the best rookie, because he had that hype. And he wasn't grinding down guys on a shitty team. Well, I guess, the Ducks are pretty shitty, but let's just face it, the Red Wings are damn near irrelevant at this point. Yeah, I'm sure most people didn't even know him.
What's bonkers to me is Josie got more first place votes than Cale Makar did and lost the Norris Trophy.
Right. Yeah.
Mind blowing to me.
Yeah. But I mean, nonetheless, I hope they don't do that again next year with the the awards. I really want them to go all out, even though it was cheesy. Bring back Joe Mangiano. He was a much better host. I thought it was great.
Also, who I need to know who. I don't know if you looked up the breakdowns for these awards. I want to know who voted Ville Husso a third place vote for Vezina Trophy.
Oh yeah, I saw that. There was like 3 goalies towards the bottom, right?
Thatcher Demko, Ville Husso, and Tristan Jarry
all with
got
one
third place
votes. Yeah.
What the fuck is that? I mean, Husso had like great stats playing half the season, but like, what are you doing?
Is that Armstrong, you think? Can you vote for your own guy?
Are the GMs one that vote on Vezina? I don't honestly.
All the GMs vote.
So GMs can't vote their own goalie.
Oh, okay, so, you can't vote. All right.
What GMs done? I mean, is it the Oilers who are like, hey, I put you third in the Vezina Trophy voting. We really want you here. Here's my ballot. I'll prove it to you. But yeah, I mean, and then outside of that, I mean, everything else is pretty normal. I was just like, who the fuck puts a basically, the backup then starter then backup for the Blues on your Vezina list? Like,
especially going on there? Well, I guess these they're voted on prior to the postseason. Do you think they should change? Do you think they should change that? No. By the way,
no.
I think they should.
No,
and they should have
you have half the teams that aren't making the playoffs that suddenly are ineligible for awards.
They're not ineligible, but they're not going to win differently. Yeah. No. I think that they should, and then have the awards. I got to work that into the title. Awards sometime in the summer. Like, I don't know. It just seems in the off season, but I guess they can't.
That's why you have MVP in the playoffs.
Fair. Well, we're not going to spend too much time talking about the coaches because we did that last episode. So go back and check that out. It's called Coach Crazy. I believe that was episode 75. Dude, we're getting there. We're almost to. We'll be at 100 by next season. We've been doing this for quite some time.
Sometime next season or right before it, probably, for sure.
Yeah, we'll try to get in some interviews again like we do in the off season, and we really appreciate you guys' support. So make sure you go back onto our YouTube and back onto our Spotify and Apple Podcasts and listen to all the episodes because they're honestly great, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be time constrained. Usually during the playoffs it is, but you can go back and listen to some regular season episodes and some of our interviews. They're all great. So go back and do that. But let's talk a little bit more. I believe this happened right after we did our episode, and it's the Dallas Stars have named Pete DeBoer as their next head coach. They gave him 4 years at somewhere north of $4 million a year, I believe. And he said what every coach says, I want to win the cup now. So that's why I came here. Geez, I mean, this is a match made in heaven, right? Boring coaching meets boring hockey. So they're probably going to work really well, but I don't understand how that's going to improve the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I mean, of who wants to go to Dallas, let alone who, fits in with the Stars, it's probably Pete DeBoer, in my opinion, of everyone else who was out there. That's my take. I think the other thing to note too is the old Jets coach that stepped aside, Paul Maurice. He's now the head coach down in Florida.
Yeah,
and one thing to note there, if my memory serves me correctly, Paul Stastny really loved playing for Paul Maurice. He could go down there. I know Claude Giroux wants to stay with the Panthers. If that somehow doesn't work out, that could be a solid, plan B for what it's worth. Which I know you'd like him back in Vegas, but
I would like him back in Vegas if it was next to nothing. Yeah, I think a veteran center at $1 million a year would be great because I can't even pronounce his name. That the Russian, is he Russian, that just signed with the Vancouver Canucks? It's like Kuzmentsov.
His name.
He was highly sought after.
Kuzmenko, yeah.
Kuzmenko. He was highly sought after, and homeboy decided to sign in Vancouver, which the thought process there is he's probably going to get ice time, right?
Well, he's that, and apparently
going to be a top line guy.
Apparently, the rumor is both the GM and the head coach, Bruce Boudreau, and I forget the GM's name of the Canucks. They both each drove separately like 4.5 hours to meet him in person before he came to Vancouver, and was like, "We want you here." And then still met him in Vancouver to seal the deal. And like, that's pretty sweet. And then probably, promises of like, you have a bright future here.
You're going to get ice time. We're going to actually give you a chance. because some of these hot shots that come over from the KHL wind up burning out bright, and they're buried on like third and fourth lines. I mean, look at Gusev. I mean, that was a prime example. I know that, Vegas was a landing spot for him. And I could see why, right? They probably couldn't guarantee him a spot on the team. They're going to have to play cap gymnastics. They can't offer him any sort of bonuses, which is what's going to get the guy paid, right? Because I think he can only sign up to a certain amount considering his deal. I think it was like $925, right?
I think it was $855 plus bonuses. So
right.
I think cap hits like $950. So like that's the max. At least I think year one.
Right.
After year one, I don't know what the situation is, if he's UFA or RFA or how the hell that works exactly. I'm going to find out here in a second.
Well, basically he couldn't sign in Vegas because they took on the LTIR from Shea Weber, and they're a cap team like for the next 4 years, and they can't have these added bonuses because that'll disrupt that.
So he's basically he's a UFA after this year, so it's a 1-year deal. Probably hopes if you play well, we'll pay you, sort of a thing.
Yeah. So, but I mean, he's going to go to the Vancouver Canucks, and he might be elite. But I mean, what does that mean? You're going to go play great on a team that is, I guess they're a fringe team with Thatcher Demko and net. I guess anything could happen, but I still think they're far from actually being a true contender. Sure. But I mean, picking him up, it can't hurt. I'm just very surprised. Homeboy gets his shot over here from the KHL, and he decides to go play in Canada, and not even for like a prestigious Canadian team. It's you get ice time. You can show you can perform. You're UFA the next year. Go where the hell you want, right? Yeah, I mean, I guess that's when he'll get his payday, right? He'll look at it like, hey, I'm going to get top line minutes, probably be on the power play.
It's like Kaprizov to a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, then he got that huge deal in Minnesota, but he stayed in Minnesota, small market necessarily. Yeah. But yeah, I could totally see why he would do that. Just a little bit of surprise, I think, regarding that move. But yeah, that brings us up to date with the coaches. I think we talked about Torts going to Philly last episode, Bruce Cassidy going to Vegas. And let's answer some questions before we wrap up this episode and watch Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. Before we go to the questions, what's your prediction for tonight's game? I don't want to end on it, but I want to chat about it before we end on these questions. What do you think is going to happen here for game 4?
I think this is like the game where we actually get that kind of, my take is it's the game where we kind of get that back and forth sort of hockey, if you will, where it's, not necessarily the score, but like, each team actually trades chances kind of similar to game 1, I feel like, where I guess that was kind of more of like the Avalanche dominated, the Lightning stormed back and then lost it in overtime. Teams have finally felt each other out to a degree, understand the matchups, both home and away. I think this is finally the game where it's going to get down to like a tight, like 3-2 game. They're not calling much either on penalties. Like got out of hand yesterday, scores out of hand. People are going to take some shots at each other at some liberty as it happens. But I got 3-2 Lightning.
Before you said that came in my head. I was like 3-2, but then as I'm thinking about it, I just don't think that that's high scoring enough. So I'm going to go with the same vibe that you have and say 4-3. I believe Darcy Kemper has been exposed. I don't think he's at 100% either. And I think they figured out enough to, at bare minimum, get 3 on him. I'm thinking 4. Overtime kind of comes to mind too. I'm with you though, but there hasn't been a lot of overtime hockey this postseason. It seems like these teams finish it off like 12 seconds left on the clock. Yeah. So I'm with you, but my prediction is going to be 4-3. I think Tampa, and I think we're going to go back to Colorado with the series tied. That's going to be my prediction.
I respect that.
So here we go. Vanessa Peterson, GG Mom RN on Twitter wants to know, will Colorado's netminder get chased out again? No. Yeah, no, I think it's Darcy Kemper's net. Unless they know something we don't, they're like, dude, your eyes just fucked 3 ways from Sunday and you're carrying on too hard. I mean, but I don't see that happening.
To clarify, I don't, it's in the realm of possibility. I think it's to take something like going down 3 or 4-0. Or like letting up 3 or 4 goals real quick for some reason, whether it's his fault or not. But I don't
just for the game though, not for the series.
Yeah. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't. He could get chased out of net for a game, but I still think they're going to continue to go back to these guys.
Yeah, unless there's something like you said, we don't know where he's hurt and he's fighting through it. They kind of just decided, we're done. Yeah, I don't see it.
Tim Ward on Twitter wants to know, does the series go 7 games? Also, what are your thoughts on the Dodonov trade if you haven't already talked about it? I still say 6. Whether it's Tampa or not, I think it goes 6 games. I'm going to stick to my original prediction, mostly because everyone was laughing at us on Facebook, and I just want to put middle finger emojis to them. So I'm a man of my word. I say 6 games. I'll let you answer that, then we'll talk about Dodonov.
I mean, to be clear too, you have a dog in the fight. What is, think about it this way too. What is our podcast name? Fourth Line Goon, the sort of scrappy, tough, against all odds, kind of guy that is doing what he wants to do. So we're kind of like the underdog, I feel like, because that plays into it if you want some context. But yeah, I say 6 as well. Speaking of the Dodonov trade, I mean, I think both teams got what they wanted. Vegas doesn't have to pay a lot of actual cash to Weber. They have a bunch of cap space to play with. Montreal is a rebuilding team, but they get a winger that probably can put up 20, 30 goals for them next season. So I think
Dodonov, yeah, I agree with you. They both got what they wanted, but in my opinion, Dodonov never fit in. It was kind of like Thomas Tatar. He scored those goals because they didn't have a healthy roster and somebody had to. Yeah. Hats off to him. He had a great season. I mean, an okay season. 20 goals is not bad, especially at his age. It just is just not the right spot for him. And he's going to go up to Montreal and he's going to probably play amazing. Like Nick Suzuki, they moved on from him and they're talking about him being the captain. It's like a 20-year-old captain. I mean, he was never going to be a captain for the Vegas Golden Knights at $7 million AAV. It was never going to happen. So win-win. You move out a player, you get the cap space, and he finds a home that he can still kind of live out the rest of his career and burn out bright, right? I mean, I wish the best for him. Joseph Mario Spina on Twitter, do you think there's a chance that if Kadri comes back, that he would actually make an impact or be more of a decoy? I mean, dude, Kadri's been lights out all year. And I think that if he's going to come back and he's going to have a sniff at that Stanley Cup, he's going to be balls to the wall. He's going to come out playing like 110% Kadri, injury and all.
My take is if you're going to make him a decoy, you do that on home ice so you can protect the matchup a lot more. But yeah, if he's playing, I think it's a full go, depending on his pain tolerance. That's it.
Right. His adrenaline is going to kick in if he knows he's got a chance at that cup, because Kadri still hasn't won one, correct?
No, he has not.
Yep. And after the year he's had, I mean, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. It's not, and we're talking a thumb here. It's a thumb. Like, I'm not going to try to downplay an injury, but also, Jack Eichel played 19 games and had a point per game with a broken thumb in the regular season. I mean, as a hockey player, when you're holding a stick, I think out of all the fingers that I would be okay with being broken, it would be a thumb, because you kind of have it. Well, yeah, but it like rests like on both ends. Like you're really holding with these 3 fingers and these 3 fingers. So it's like, you can get away with it. I mean, it's not ideal, but I truthfully think out of all the injuries that could have happened to him, especially in that play, right? Like, I think everyone was thinking concussion, maybe knee, shoulder. I mean, he got cross-checked, if I remember correctly, into the boards from behind. And the fact that out of all that, it was a thumb, they're lucky. And he can power through if it means that he's going to hoist the cup. That's for sure. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. fourthlinegoon.com. Make sure you're following us on YouTube and Twitter. We'll go ahead and drop our Twitter handles below, if you will. And next time we talk to you, we'll see if our predictions were right. Tommy 3-2, I'm 4-3. Both of us bolts and 6. We're standing by our word. So
yeah, I mean, by next time we chat, it's gonna probably be series is decided, or it's gonna be probably Game 7. So we'll know a hell of a lot more then too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to the Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast. Cheers, everybody.
Bye, guys.